All right, continuing our factoring section. We're still in chapter 2.3, factoring quadratics. Today we're going to apply the factoring method to solve quadratics. And we're able to do that by what's called the zero product property. Zero product property. So basically the zero product property is when you set the equation equal to 0, so rewrite the equation so that it is equal to 0, and then factor and finally solve it. So that's what we're looking at first here. That's our first learning target. I can solve a quadratic equation by factoring. So let's look at our success criteria. So first, you're going to set the equation equal to 0. So we want this equation equal to 0. And also, we want to make sure that it's in standard form. So make sure the equation is in standard form. And standard form is the ax squared plus bx plus c. So now we're going to have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So for this problem, we're going to bring the 42 over to the other side. So we're going to subtract it from both sides. So we'll have x squared plus x minus 42. And now we can set it equal to 0. All right, now we're ready to factor. Step 2, factor. Always make sure to check for a GCF first. Check for GCF first. That's always the first step to factoring. All right, so no GCF here. So this is a trinomial. So we're factoring a quadratic trinomial. A is 1. So in this method, we take the negative 42 to the side here. And we're looking for the factors of negative 42 that add to this middle term, positive 1. So the factors that would work there would be negative 6 times 7. So negative 6 times 7 is negative 42, but if you add them, you get positive 1. And then we'll take the square root of this x squared here. So that would be x, and then fill in our factors, negative 6 and positive 7. So that's factored. Now we're going to use the zero product property. So remember, we're going to set it equal to 0 here. So in this step, we're going to set each factor equal to 0. So I have the factor x minus 6. I'll set that equal to 0, and then x plus 7, set that equal to 0. So each factor equal to 0. And now we're ready to solve. So we're going to solve for x. So we would add 6 to both sides here. So x is 6. Subtract 7 here. And x is negative 7. So that's our answer. X is 6. X is negative 7. All right, let's try another one. All right, so make sure it's in standard form equal to 0. So we're going to bring that 9x over by adding it and bring the 5 over by subtracting it. Now it's equal to 0. Now we're ready to factor. There's no GCF here. So this is a trinomial where a is greater than 1. So this is what we learned yesterday. This is when you multiply 2 times negative 5, that gives you negative 10. So I'm looking for the factors of negative 10 that add to 9. So that would be negative 1 times 10. Negative 1 times 10 is negative 10, but if you add them, you get 9. So that's the winner here. Now I'm going to replace the 9x with the negative 1 and the 10. And now I'm ready to factor by grouping. So I'll group my first two terms and my last two terms. Looking for the GCF of the first group, that would be just x. So I'll pull an x out. GCF of the second group would be 5. So I'll pull a 5 out. Make sure they're the same, they are. So I'm gonna write that one down there. And then I have x plus 5 for my second factor there. Okay, so now I can set each factor equal to 0 to solve it. So I have 2x minus 1 equal to 0, and then this x plus 5 equal to 0. I'm going to solve for x, so I'll add 1, and then divide by 2. So x equals 1/2. Then over here, I'd subtract 5. X equals negative 5. So those are your two answers there. Okay, let's do another one. Bring that 20 over. Remember, you can always pause the video so you can try these on your own. All right, then I'm ready to factor. So this is a trinomial A is 1. So I'm going to pull this negative 20. And I'm looking for the factors of negative 20 that add to positive 8. That would be negative 2 times 10. Negative 2 times 10 is negative 20, but when you add them, you get positive 8. So x minus 2 and x plus 10. Okay, now you're ready to solve. So x minus 2 equals 0, and x plus 10 equals 0. Add 2 to both sides, you get x equals 2. Subtract 10, x equals negative 10. One more. Pause the video if you want to try it on your own. So I need to set it equal to 0, so I'm going to bring this 3x over by subtracting it. Bring the 2 over by subtracting it. This is a trinomial A greater than 1, so this one I'm going to multiply 2 times, or negative 2 here. So 2 times negative 2 equals negative 4. Now I'm looking for the factors of negative 4 that add to negative 3. So that would be negative 4 times positive 1. Negative 4 times positive 1 is negative 4, but when you add them, you get that negative 3. All right, so I'm replacing the negative 3x with negative 4x and 1x. Okay, then we're ready to group them. Take out a 2x here. Just a 1 here. Okay, these are common, so we did it right. On the right track there. Then you have 2x plus 1 for your other factor. Okay, you can set each equal to 0. And we're ready to solve for x. So we would add 2 to both sides, so x is 2. Subtract 1, so 2x equals -1. Divide by 2, so you'd get, ran out of room here. Divide by 2, x equals -1/2. So 2 and -1/2 would be the answer for this last problem. All right, so that is solving a quadratic by factoring. Let's look at some applications. So we're going to turn the page here in our note packet, page 22. So now we're taking this, what we just learned, and applying it to a real life situation here. So a story problem. So it says Marco hits a golf ball into the air from the 3rd level of a driving range that is 48 feet high. So here's Marco, 48 feet up in the air, and he's hitting his golf ball. And the parabola that this golf ball makes is given by this equation right here. And this will give the height h in feet of the golf ball t seconds. So t is standing for time in seconds, h is height. When will the ball hit the ground? So if you're finding when the ball will hit the ground, we're looking for time. Time is represented by t. So to solve for t, we need to set this equal to 0 and solve for t, just like what we just learned how to do. So here's your steps here. Here's your success criteria. So first we're going to substitute 0 for h of t. So basically set the equation equal to 0 so we can solve for time there. All right, so always look for your GCF before you start to factor. Find, oh, that should say GCF there. Find the GCF. So in this problem, our GCF is -16. So I'm going to factor out a -16. So divide everything by -16. Now we can continue with our factoring. This is an a equals 1 problem. So we're going to pull that -3 to the side. Find the factors that will equal -2 when you add them. Here it is, 1 times -3. Bring down that GCF. Square root of t squared is t, so we'll fill in our t's. And then +1 and -3. All right, so now it's factored. Now we're going to use our zero product property. This is when we set each factor equal to 0. So I have t plus 1 equal to 0 and t minus 3 equal to 0. And now we're going to solve it. So subtract 1 here, so t equals -1. Add 3 here, t equals 3. So I have 2 answers for time, but I want to pick the one that makes sense. So choose answer that makes sense. So let's think about this. If we're talking about time in seconds, it's not going to be -1. It's not going to be a -1 second. So that answer doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to choose this one, the t equals 3. And then, so now I know that the ball will hit the ground after 3 seconds. The ball will hit the ground after 3 seconds. All right. Okay, here's another example. Same kind of problem. Pause the video, try it on your own there. All right, now we're talking about a baseball is thrown from the upper deck of a stadium, 128 feet above the ground. Here is the equation of the parabola this ball is making. And it gives a height. Height is the h, t is the time in seconds. How long will it take the ball to reach the ground? So, we're looking for time here. How long is talking about time. So we're going to solve for t. You do that by setting it equal to 0. Always look for a GCF. GCF is negative 16. Pull out that negative 16. So divide everything by negative 16 there. Now we're ready to factor what's inside the parentheses there. Bring down your GCF. This is a trinomial. A is 1, so we're going to pull the negative 8 to the side. And we're looking for the factors that equal negative 2. That would be right here, 2 times negative 4. So take the square root of t squared, that's t, and then fill in your factors, positive 2, negative 4. All right, now we're ready to use our zero product property. So we're going to set each factor equal to 0 and then solve for t. So t is negative 2 and t is 4. Now remember we're asking for time, so this negative 2 does not make any sense. So my answer is 4 seconds. It will take the ball 4 seconds to reach the ground. The ball will reach the ground after 4 seconds. And that is your answer. Okay, now you're ready to do your worksheet.